If you're ready to experience more peace and joy in your life, if you want to feel more comfortable in your own skin, and if you're ready to discover and expand on your energetic gifts and personal power, you're in the right place. So here's your host, Kelle Sparta.
Hello and welcome to Spirit Guides. I'm your host, Kelle Sparta, transformational shaman, spiritual coach, spiritual business coach. And this week, Catherine is not feeling well. And so rather than doing a traditional episode, I am offering a spiritual business consultation service. And I have gotten permission from one of my clients to air the spiritual business consultation that she received from me so that you guys could get a chance to see what that's like. And so that's going to be our episode for this week. And so I hope you enjoy.
All right. So you're my first one of these.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So this will be, I'm learning a lot in this process. So I appreciate you engaging with this for me. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions during this call. And given that I asked you so many questions in advance, we probably won't take 2 hours. But I want to this is my chance to get to know you better and get to understand what you're going for and things like that, beyond the questions that I asked. So the first question, so I realized I had forgotten to ask some really important questions when I looked at the questionnaires later, and I was like, so let me ask those now. So let me start with the money questions, which is, when you think about the 5 people you spend the most time with right now, do they make more money, the same money, or less money than you do?
Are you talking about my clients or are you talking about just people in general?
Your friends.
Okay. Question. I would say they either make the same or less.
Okay. So that's issue number 1.
Okay.
Well, so I'm gonna fight. My tendency is to go straight to outcome, and I'm gonna fight really hard to not go into outcome on this call, because this isn't supposed to be an information gathering, and the outcome's supposed to be when we do the report. So I'm gonna try and stay on that. But yes, I'm gonna give you that one as an outcome right now, because when you hang out with people who make the same or less than you do, you will think that the world is poor, and it will make it hard for you to promote stuff. Because you're going to be taking care of people and trying to make sure that they can afford what you're offering. Okay. So you need to cultivate some friendships with people who make preferably a lot more money than you do.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Because that opens up your brain pan. Okay. All right. So that was an important question that I didn't add to the list. Let me go look at what the other one was, because there was another one that I wanted to do. Nope, that's yours. Hold on. Yes. Why is it that you've signed up for this consultation now? What is it in your business that you're hoping to fix or address?
I am really at the point where I want to be fully doing my own thing, and I need the trickle to turn into more like a waterfall.
Okay.
And I know that I have some of my own limiting beliefs and things that I've agreed to in my own field that I've worked through in my own energy medicine sessions. I get healing every 4 weeks. All healers need their own healing. And so I just want to know where is that blocking me in my business and removing that on another level. The biggest thing for me is part of my medicine is being seen and heard. And that is something that was really taken away from me as a kid. Being seen and heard were things I wasn't able to do. And so now that it's part of my medicine, the thing that I know that is a belief system that I used to agree to is who the fuck do you think you are? Get back, shut up, stop saying that. No one wants to see you. No one wants to hear you. You're a liar. You're not telling the truth. And those are things that I've been healing for a while. The who the fuck do you think you are is something that has come to light recently. I didn't know that I was agreeing to that. that like I need to hide because no one like who wants to see you, and no one wants to like celebrate you because who the fuck do you think you are? Um, and so that's really I'm trying to move that obstacle fully out of the way personally and in business because it is part of my medicine to be seen and heard and to help others be seen and heard.
Okay. And what have you tried to do in the past to fix it?
In the past, I don't think I really would have tried to fix it. Uh,
So, I mean, I'm talking about your business, right? In terms of, problems with the business, right? So,
um, so for the business, this who the fuck do you think you are mentality has just come out in the last like 3 months. So
okay.
this
So,
is part of this is part of what I'm trying to do to release that from my field completely because that limiting belief isn't who I am. It's something I agreed to. So um it I'm no longer agreeing with it, but I do know that it's an obstacle that I'm facing.
okay. So, if I remember correctly, you said you were in business for 5 years, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So, what have you done to try and get yourself to the point where you can be 100% in your business?
Um as far as like to be able to fully operate there.
Yeah.
Well, the most difficult thing there is that I am the breadwinner for my family and I
Right.
hold the health insurance for everybody. So it's that limiting belief that like I won't be able to sustain that if I shift from the 9 to 5 to this fully. And so things that I've done, I mean, I consult with people. I do like I work for part of what I do is like doing things for the community, and so I work with the YWCA to bring free meditation and sound to the community. But I do that through the Y. That's not through my business, which is another like sticking point for me. Like I need to stop doing things for other organizations and just have them be like Prism of Brilliance, not Margie Breault working for the Y to offer free resources for the community. Um, so things I've done in the past healing around what my limiting beliefs are, and then define what those limiting beliefs are so I can liberate from them. Um, and then I have taken like free business courses. There was a person when I first started out who was doing something similar to you, but I wasn't ready to take the steps then.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready to do it. And then I've also I ran an entrepreneurship program before I worked for the city. I work in business. It's like the coach needs a coach. Is where I'm
Right.
at right now.
Okay. And so you said you're making 2,500 a month. What
Yeah,
do you need to make to replace your current income and health insurance? Income and benefits.
I need to make 10K a month.
10K. Okay.
Yeah,
And that's in addition to the 2,500 you're making now, or is that including the 2,500 you're making now?
that's including
Including. Okay. So you need to make 7,500 more. Okay.
a month.
A month.
And now,
Right.
if I broke it down just like by clients, I would need to say 64 clients a month to do that.
That's insane.
Yes.
Okay. So that's going to be one of the things we're going to talk about is that you need to change your business model. You cannot do a hourly model sustainably over long periods and make enough money. That's the
Okay.
challenge.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to need to work on your business model. That's one of the things we'll talk about. Okay.
Okay.
Um, you know what? I just feel like just giving you some solutions here. So, so, um, yeah, so we're gonna have to talk about your business model, and I'll come up with a plan for that for you. Okay. But I do have some more questions. On your website, you use the word suffering a lot. Are you coming out of a Buddhist model?
I think there's Buddhist stuff in a lot of the practices that I do, but it's not a Buddhist model, no.
Okay. The reason I ask is because that's literally the only place in the spiritual world I ever see the word suffering. The
Okay.
word is specific to Buddhism. It's just weird, but it is. So unless you're working with a specifically Buddhist model, I might shift that languaging.
Okay.
because it makes it feel like you're working with a Buddhist model.
Okay.
And it's a little mushy with the symbolism when you've got the elephant, which is very much a Ganesh image in Hinduism. And then you've got the Buddhist languaging, and I'm like, okay. So there's sort of that. Tell me what root work is, because I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so a root teacher is someone who's teaching the foundations. So in my case, the foundations are natural law. So coming from that natural law lens where
Okay.
I'm teaching people that, and when you're a root teacher, like you're saying the same things over and over and over again. You're not straying from the message. And so when I'm doing root teachings, it's really focused on that natural law piece.
Okay. So that's going to be another piece of feedback I have for you, which is that I've been studying spiritual stuff for 50 years, and I didn't know what root work was.
Okay.
I don't think anybody who is your target market is going to understand what that means.
Okay.
So you need to find a different way to say that.
Okay.
Or just don't say it and just model it, right? Because it's not necessary to say it, right? Nobody goes looking for a root teacher, right? They go looking for somebody they resonate with. And so you don't need to identify that that's what you're doing, but you could say, I'm working with beginners. That would be something that they could identify as, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you need something that they can identify as. So that's part of the work that you're going to have to identify for yourself, is to figure out exactly who you're working with. Because on one of your pages, you said, on one of your questionnaire answers, I said, who do you work with? And you, who does this work, who is this work good for? And you said everyone. And that's always a red flag answer.
I know it is. I knew it was when I was writing it. I was like, but it does work for everybody.
I would argue it does not.
Okay.
And there are people for whom they have no interest in change. It will not work for them.
That's true.
Okay?
Because I don't believe that it does.
Well, because they don't care about it. They don't want to know about it. They're resistant to it, and they disbelieve, right? So it's all the things, right? So that's a large swath of the market right there, it's a large swath of the world. So you need to come to an acceptance that there are people for whom this is inappropriate. And, another swath of the market is going to be people who are further along in their journey and are not doing that level of work anymore, right? That's another part of the market. There's another part of the market that are people who think they have done this work and haven't, but will not admit that they need to. That's a whole other part of the market.
That's actually who I get the most of, is those people.
Okay. And how do you get them? Because trying to convince people they need something that they don't believe they need is a very difficult thing to do, and generally not something you should be focusing on in marketing.
That's not who I'm focused on marketing on. That's just like who the people who end up working with me are.
Okay. So
like
that's an important distinction.
Out of the clients that I have, I would say 80% of them are people who have thought they did the work and at some point recently realized that they hadn't, and met me either through like a meditation, coming to one of my meditations, or met me at a class, or someone referred them to me because they had never heard anything about what I was talking about before, and they thought that they could learn a lot from me.
Okay.
And so that's actually who tends to find me the most.
Okay. So then I would say that I would sit down, if I were you, I would sit down and write out everything those people have said about their journey before they met you. Because if that's 80% of your clients, then that's your market.
Okay.
Okay. So you need to write down everything they've told you about what they were doing just before they met you, because that's the journey that takes people to you. And that's what you need to start talking about, is that journey. Because then when you talk about the precursor and they go, oh, yeah. And they go, okay, now you're here. Come join me. Right. So if that's 80% of your market, then that's what you need to be talking about.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then you also need, I mean, do the math, right? Because your average session, if we took the prices for your average session, right? It's like what, 160 right now, somewhere around that, or 150 maybe for average.
So yeah, per average it's like 160.
Okay, so 160, and you need to make 10 grand divided by 160. That's 62 and a half hours a month to make 10 grand. That does not include marketing. That does not include promotion. That does not include administration. That does not include
Right. That
anything
just means
else that
that's
you're
just
doing.
client work.
That's just client work, and that's not super sustainable over. You know, if we look at 4.3 weeks, that's 14 hours and 14 and a half, 15 hours a week, which you can do, but you're going to get tired, and it requires. Are you doing this in person?
I do it in person mostly, but I also do virtual sessions.
Okay. So in person, you're going to have a very limited market. Where do you live?
I live in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yes. Okay. All right. So it's not that small a market. You got a good sized market out there. I used to live in Somerville. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, the
yeah.
market's not too bad. And right now I'm at a place where like people want to do work with me, but I don't have enough time
Right.
and space.
Exactly. Which is going to be the other factor for this, because you're working a full-time job and you're trying to do this. So 15 hours a week and a full-time job and the marketing and promotion, you're going to kill yourself before you get there. Okay.
Yes, which I
Right.
don't want to do.
Correct. So we need to shift your model to a different type of model. And so we need to talk about what that's going to be. So talk to me. I know you said you like to speak on stages, and you like to work with small groups because you want to make significant change, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you're looking at people who, so if we talk about the people that you're working with, they have been doing their own work and they thought they had done stuff, but then they find that they missed something and now they're coming to work with you. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so they are people who are already committed to their own personal spiritual growth path, right? So you're not working with basic beginners. Yet another reason.
I would say my one-on-one clients are not basic beginners. No. People who come to my workshops, yes.
Yes, but that's different, right? So workshops. So what are you doing for your workshops? There's sort of sound bath stuff and stuff like that.
I do a sound bath, a guided meditation, breath work, and a mantra meditation, and then I also do we call it a sacred sound and wisdom circle, but it's really it's natural law 101. I'm teaching people about the basics of natural law and how to start to identify it in your life and how to come into a place of compassion.
Okay. So
and I also created a workbook. Oh, sorry. I created a workbook that goes along with that people can buy on Amazon.
Right. Okay. Oh, I wanted to make a mention that I looked at your newsletter and the 12 months of coaching thing you did, whatever the book is. In the newsletter, it looks like it's actual coaching. And so when you say purchase now, it's like I need to buy something before I look at what I'm going to get with 12 months of coaching. And it does not look like a book.
Okay. Good to know.
So you need to say, get the ebook now on your button instead, right?
Okay.
Because I thought it was a coaching program and I clicked through and I was like, oh, it's a book. And I didn't want to press the purchase now button because I wasn't ready to buy a coaching program, right? I was like, but it's a book. And I was like, oh, it's a book. Who knew? And I had to press the button to find out it was a book. Okay. So just food for thought on that. It's hard to tell when we do our own marketing, we know what we mean. And then, what it's perceived like to other people is like, wait, what?
It's definitely, well, that's why it's good to get feedback from someone who is like, this is literally what you're doing. So,
okay. So how well is that book selling?
I honestly, neither of them sell a ton. I mostly created those so that I can, I love that they're on Amazon, but the natural law one, I give to people who come to my workshop, the Natural Law Intro Workshop. And then I typically will gift the flow coaching one to clients, so that they have like a guidebook to go with them. And then people who come to like my sounded meditations, my breath work, all of those things, those are mostly the people who buy it other than that.
Okay. So yeah, the first thing that I see as a challenge for you is that you're marketing to basic beginners, but your best clients are not basic beginners. They are people who are further along in the client process.
Okay.
So done for you and done to you are beginner systems, right? So meditation, sound healings, sound baths, energy healing work, all of this is typically, it's a done to you process for people who can't do for themselves, right? The other piece that we need to look at is how do we change who you're marketing to so you get that 80% of people who actually pay you, right?
Okay.
Because clearly the level of work that you are doing is attractive to these people, right? And it might be overwhelming to these people. There's a reason why I have changed I'm stepping back from doing my beginner level programs because I am past the beginner level work so far that I no longer speak at the level of beginners, right? I was doing this work 24 years ago, right? And so, when I talk to them, I'm talking up at like graduate level and they're at like freshman level. And so they're just like gobsmacked a little bit sometimes. So, and I'm betting that you're probably doing some of that.
I would say yes, for sure that happens.
Yeah, that would be my bet. So, because the people who are coming to you are further along, right? So you need to acknowledge that that's what's true and start marketing to the people who speak your language and for whom you can be of greater service because you're speaking at their level, right? And, I'm not trying to be hierarchical about this, but it's just fact of the matter, right? It's like, defining terms is down here, transformation is up here. Beginner level is defining terms, okay? Intermediate level is implementation, and advanced level is transformation, okay?
Okay.
So you need to understand what level you operate at before you start trying to market. Because if you're operating at one level and marketing to another, you're going to have a really hard time making sales, right? Because you're going to be mismatching your energy. And everybody who buys in this market is buying off of energy match. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's going to be the thing that I think is going to be crucial for you is to really shift the way that you're marketing to bring yourself into alignment with the people who most resonate with what you do, which is clearly the people who thought they had it down but are still, missing pieces, right?
It's usually the natural law and true compassion is what they're missing. They're like, I thought I was doing that the whole time and I'm not.
Right. And so that would be what I would focus your marketing around is, the misconception of, namaste or whatever, right? Because I see that a lot in the spiritual world where people are like, namaste and the God in me acknowledges the God in you and da 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 da. And they're doing the motions, but they're not experiencing it, right?
Yeah. And that's truly, that just gave me chills. That is the people that
Yeah.
that typically come to me because it's that piece that's missing because they are not actually embodying what they are saying. Their words, deeds, and actions do not align. And mine do, and that's attractive.
Right. Yeah. And so that's who you need to be marketing to. So you need to identify who they are, what fields they're in, what are they doing, what are the key components of them, right? And the best way to do that is by remembering everything you've ever been told by any of your existing clients who fit that mold.
Okay. Which is most of them. So that's easy.
Yeah. So go back and review any recordings you might have of sessions you've done with them and listen to their language. And if you don't have any recordings, then see if they'll get on a Zoom call with you so you can record. So like You see my Fathom is here, and it's translating, it's transcribing everything, because that way you're getting the actual words that they're using, and just ask them to talk about their journey up until this moment, right?
Okay.
And then have them talk about that, and how they came to the awareness that they were missing something. What is it that was that crucial moment for them? Because that's what you're going to use in your marketing.
Okay.
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 Yeah. And then I'll sit and think about what we want to do for your business model, because that needs to shift if you're gonna do it sanely.
Which I would like to do.
Sanity, good, right? And then, so tell me this: do you? And you said you like to work in a variety of different fashions. How do you feel if you don't ever get to physically meet your clients? How would you feel about
That would be okay.
that? Okay.
Yeah, I honestly prefer group work over one-on-one. I would much rather like be in front of a group of people than one-on-one. I love one-on-one sessions too, because we get really deep. And we're able, I mean, clients have great transformations when they stick with the work outside of the sessions that we're doing. But bigger groups of people are I know also part of my medicine, but I enjoy that work as well.
Yeah. And so the next question I have is, you're selling session work, not outcomes. So, and you're saying they have better results when they do the work outside of the sessions, right?
Yes.
So why would you not be tying it into the better results? Why would you not be creating the larger context picture, right? So if you've got, let's say, if you know that you need optimally 8 sessions, and they've got to do the homework in between, and then they get this outcome, then why would you not package it that way, right?
Okay.
So this is sort of I'm just planting some seeds for you, right? I don't want you to solve anything yet. I'm just giving you things to percolate on. I want you to think about, what is the actual outcome that you create for them? Because, being more your authentic self is kind of amorphous, right? It's not a solid thing. But if you're delivering something, now, are most of your people already out there teaching other people?
Let's see. Some of them are. Some of them not necessarily like healers in the sense of like they're Reiki masters or working in energy medicine. Like I have a client who's a doula. And so like she's out there working with people, and she's a midwife and owns her own midwife practice. And so like she's helping to work with people in a different way.
Right.
I have a client who's a therapist. I have a client who owns her own wellness spa. I have a client who is a life coach for Worcester Regional Housing Authority. So like they're all doing work with
So yeah, they're out there
people
doing
in different ways,
Yes.
not necessarily just energy medicine.
Right, but they're facilitating for others in some fashion.
Yes.
Okay, so that is your outcome then, is to improve their ability to facilitate for others,
Okay.
right? That's the outcome. And so it's like, here's why being in your authentic self is important. You see the difference there?
Yes.
See how that would be worth more money?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you're going to be better at your job. Boom. That's an outcome. That's
Okay.
an outcome with a dollar sign attached to it, right?
Okay. So I want to show not just like you'll be more authentic, but here is like the outcomes that you're going to get from this session.
Yes.
Okay.
Or we're going to move away from session work, but I want you to think about what outcomes you create for people.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the piece that I want you to really chew on, because that's the piece that's going to determine what direction you go in with the new model that we work with. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So really sit down and look at what the outcomes are. So being more in your authentic self, great. What does that mean for practical application?
Okay.
Right? So does it change the way I feel about it myself? Does it change the way I interact in the world? Does it make me more believable as a leader? Does it make me more effective as a leader? Does it make me more attractive to people? Does it help my relationships? What is it that this outcome brings? It's like, it is not a be all end all answer to say you'll be more authentically yourself, because people don't know what that means sometimes. Even people who teach this stuff, they're like, well, but yeah, I want that, but to really want to invest in it,
They have to understand it.
you have to understand it. So that means you have to define it if you're trying to sell it.
Okay.
Right? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. The next thing I want to talk about, hold on. So I love, love, love your logo. I love the multicolored elephant. It's just gorgeous.
Thank you.
Love, love, love. And the top of your website looks amazeballs. But it doesn't tell me whether or not I'm in the right place.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would take all the stuff that's about you on the right, shove it down underneath you on the left, or put it further down, and then make the right be the headline saying, this is who you work with and why you work with them and what you get them, right?
Okay.
Just a headline that says, for people who are facilitating for others who have gotten to a certain point in their journey and are feeling stuck, or realizing that they missed something along the way, right? Be just, I break you through to the next level so that you can step more into your authentic self and claim the benefits of that, which include right? That's part of the text, obviously, but and become I think in the headline I would say something like and become word and transcend into the next level of your facilitating abilities, right? Trend more spiritual. You get the idea though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So so that's the general concept of, you need something on the homepage of your website at the very top that says, who is this for and why are they here? Right?
Okay.
What do they get? That needs to be at the very top of your page. So if you went to mykellesparta.com, you would see there's a video that says, how many of these books have you read? Are you on, I work with people who are working through their spiritual addiction process, right? It's like, okay, you've hit the point of spiritual addiction. You're like, I'm desperate to orient to the new world, and I'm gathering as much information as humanly possible. And now I'm gathering information for the sake of information because I don't know how to orient and I can't figure out where I'm going. And I really feel like I need to be doing something, but I don't know what that is. And I'm still searching and I'm stuck, right?
All right. I have no idea how to action this.
Right. Yeah. And so at the top of my page, that's what the video says. My video is way too long. I'm about to shorten it. So, but if you could put it in a headline, that's even better.
Okay.
So, all right. What else? Yeah, I will talk to you about your social media stuff, but until we get the new market clarified, there's nothing to really talk about there yet, because you're going to be changing the messaging anyway. So the one thing I will say is that I went to your Instagram channel and I looked at the first like 6 or 7 posts, and they were all about you. They were not about your client. There's no reason for somebody to follow you. So, it's fine to talk about yourself as long as you can relate it back to other people, right? You can make a post about yourself periodically, right? Like the one saying, hey, it's so amazing that I got, referenced in this article on whatever, right? That one, you can do a post about it, but you did like 3 or 4, and they were all sort of the same thing, right? They were related, right? So what you want to do is you want to make your posts about the person that you're talking to, that you're trying to attract, and about what their issues are. And if you talk about yourself, you talk about, I had this problem in the past, and now, and I've transcended it, and here's what the outcome of that is, right? And so people can identify with the problem that you had in the past and see that it can be solved, right? And you can even say, I went through this journey and I did this and this and this, and this is how I came out, and give them a way to access it. But, they're probably not going to be able to access it on their own, right? So, if they can, great, they get value out of it. And if they can't, then they go, oh, well, I don't know how to get value out of this, but clearly you know how to do it. So how do I do it? Right. And they'll come to you and ask you. Right. So, that's the sort of post about you that you can make, but it has to be in service to them.
Okay.
Okay. So you are either modeling, if you're going to talk about yourself, you're modeling what they want, or you are showing them a transformation that you went through and shows them that, one, you're not like perfect up high on a pedestal, and that you were them, and that you know how to get where they're going, right? That's the pull yourself off the pedestal post, right?
Okay.
So you can either model where they want to be, you can pull yourself off the pedestal, or you need to talk about them. Those are your 3 types of posts.
Okay.
Okay. So you want to be really clear about that, because, general posts about yourself, nobody really cares, right? They need to, once they've invested in you, then they care more, right? But so for me, my client journey for my B2C clients is they all come in through the podcast, and through the podcast they get to know me, like me, trust me, and now they actually want to know more about me. And I have one place where they can do that. It's over on TikTok. I talk about my personal life on TikTok and having moved to Panama and all of the stuff going on there. And I'm like, if you want to know about my life, come to TikTok and you will see about my life. But everything else is all about them.
Okay.
Okay. So that's, I mean, on the podcast, I'll give little snippets about things that are going on for me, but I don't talk ad infinitum about it. I'm just like, in a 30-minute podcast, I might say 2 or 3 minutes about it, right? It's all about them. So, okay. So you want to make sure that that's the case, because you've got to give them a reason to follow you, right?
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Because, it's a noisy world. And if they're not getting value from your content, then they won't stay around. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and so your platform, the Facebook platform, I see that you're looking to build community, but you're not getting a lot of engagement.
I don't get a lot. I mean, the group is small, but yeah, no, there's not a lot of engagement in there.
Yeah. And part of that is because your posts for engagement are very neutral. They're like, they could be anybody's group, right? They, here's, how are you grateful today? And, the other pieces. So they're very neutral sort of engagement posts. As we get clearer about your target market and you become more specific to the needs of that target market in your posts, your prompts, you'll get more engagement.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the reason you're not getting a lot right now, is because you're asking the same question every week, and it could be any spiritual group's post, right? We need to get much more focused on what your market is. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and it has to be every day. This is why I hate groups. It's so much work. So I personally do not like to do groups. I'm actually having one of my students run my groups because I will never go in there. But this is why you need to know what you like and what you don't like. If you like it, then that's going to be great for you. If you don't like it, then it's going to suck for you, right? So you just need to be aware of that.
Okay.
And you also need to decide if you want to stay on Facebook as your group, because Facebook, I know for a fact that a lot of people who are further along on their spiritual journeys hate Facebook with a passion because it's toxic, right? So that may
Yes.
also be limiting your ability to connect with people. You might want to set up a Discord server or something different, right? A
Okay.
circle account or a Mighty Networks or something like that, right? Because that way people can log in without having to go through the toxic sludge of Facebook, right? So just food for thought. You need to, when you're talking to your clients, find out how they feel about Facebook.
Okay.
Okay. Because if they all hate Facebook, then you're on the wrong platform to build your group. That and Facebook has a tendency to, Facebook has a tendency to change the rules. I've been with Facebook since they started, and they have changed the rules dramatically in ways that fucked over businesses on a regular basis.
Things are constantly changing. Sometimes it's hard to keep up.
Yeah. And they change the rules all the time, and they make it harder for you to do what you're doing. So, for the group that you have, the thing I would say is make sure if you're posting something once a day, you can do @followers and @everyone for the posts. If you want somebody to notice those posts, you definitely want to do that.
Okay.
Okay? Because that will notify everybody that you've made a post. Okay?
Okay.
But you can only do that once a day for your groups.
Okay.
Okay? So you got to
Okay.
pick and choose what you want to be noticed, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But for now, make use. And, make sure that when you have that conversation with people that you're asking that question. And if they don't like Facebook, you can ask if they have a particular platform they like to do groups on. Because that way you know what they've already got installed. Because that's one of the biggest challenges is
That's
that.
true. It's not making someone download a new app.
Correct. So I do that in my group. I'm using Marco Polo for my coaching in my programs. So, which is an asynchronous video chat app. And they're having to download it, but I love it because I can put a group together on it and everybody can see each other on camera when they're talking in between. And I'm not even doing coaching calls anymore. I'm just doing check-ins on Marco Polo and it's working amazingly. So, food for thought. All right. So, hold on, let me just tap in here. So what is the outcome you want to create for people? Or what is the one that you tend to create for people?
The outcome that I tend to create for people is people being able to own all parts of themselves and move past suffering as an identity, and moving out of that place where they're like constantly trying to ascend, and they like actually root in first and they take their body along on their healing journey. I think that happens a lot in spirituality, especially new age spirituality. People are like, I want to ascend, I want to go higher, I want to go higher, bring me higher, bring me higher, and they forget to root into source first. They forget to like really tap into the energy of the earth. And like my outcome is that people do that, because that is where you actually drop into being able to move in separation and you come back into wholeness. And people, mostly spiritual people, don't even realize that they are mostly operating in separation in some sort of hierarchical place, where like the first Reiki class I ever took was like, okay, well, you're going to go into your session, you're going to turn your Reiki on, and you're going to do the session on the client, and then you're going to leave and you're going to turn the Reiki off, right? And like, so you're not ever able to stay light yourself. You're still working in a place where you have to be this humble healer and not owning all parts of yourself all the time. I want people to be able to own all parts of themselves all the time and bring their whole selves into every environment that they're in.
Okay. bear with me. I'm going to try and shorten that down to something that's consumable very quickly. Because I totally get what you're saying. I see a lot of people. So I lay out the stages of spiritual evolution, and there are stage 3 healers, which are the people who are teachers, healers, who are in that space where they are there to prove to themselves and to others that they can do this, right? And that's usually where they get stuck in what you're talking about, right? That's before they retreat for self-reflection and self-work, right? So the stage 3 people they're working from ego, right? And so that ego space.
And they have no idea that they are. They have no idea.
Yeah. And so, but you can't tell them that.
They have to realize it.
They have to realize it, right? So the question is, so just before that stage, they're in proof and proselytizing, right? They're like, holy shit, this stuff works. I must tell everybody I know and drag them out to classes with me so they don't think I'm nuts. That's the stage before, right?
Yep.
And so the stage that they're in is, okay, I think I figured out how this works, and I know other people can do it, and I think I can do it too. Let me prove that, right? And so you are correct that they have a tendency to try and leave their bodies to ascend. And so, and this is something that I talk about too, which is the masculine versus the feminine approach to evolution, right? And so the masculine is strip away, strip away, strip away until you become nothing and you become one with everything. It's the path from the heart chakra up. And the feminine is, and it's the path of knowledge and understanding, and it's in light, right? So you can see it all, right? And the feminine is the great mystery. It's the accept and receive with compassion, without judgment, everything, until you become everything and become one with everything. And the paradox is, the ultimate path to spiritual evolution is to do both at the same time and have it not be a paradox, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the beautiful balance.
Yes. And so, the piece that they've done is this part, which is why they keep trying to go up. Mm-hmm. But they haven't stepped into the darkness. And every time they step into the darkness, they go looking for the light switch. And it's like, no, there is no light switch. This is not about knowledge. This is about experience. There's a difference, right? It's a different energy, right?
And it's also about, like, people don't understand that emotions are just energy and motion. And if you don't allow the emotion to come through to be processed, you go into the story. That's when you're trying to fix it, and you shame and blame it, and you judge it, instead of just being like, I am feeling sad. It is okay that I'm feeling sad. Let's feel this sadness, and then choose to not stay there. Right. People feel the emotion, it triggers the story for them, and then they get lost in the story, and it pulls them away from actually experiencing the emotion. Yeah, and now they're stuck inside of it.
Yeah, they try to manage the emotion with their mind instead of experiencing it with their heart. That was what I used to do.
Yeah, I used to do it too. But that's also why I understand it so deeply. But the people mostly get lost there, because even spiritual people get caught in that, like, it's positive or it's negative, it's light or it's dark. Good vibes only, positive vibes only, blah, 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 blah. And then they shame and blame and judge everything that's other. And, like, the thing is that we are all of it. It's the experience is all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I think for that, if I'm thinking about how to define that. Okay, so I'm going too far in the future. Let me back up. We need to work with the outcome. So the outcome that you're promising is to step into that balanced container of masculine and feminine energy, right? That's really what you're shooting for. We're not going to call it that, but for my purposes, I'm trying to wrap my head around exactly what you're doing. We're looking at stepping into that balance of the masculine and feminine, or are you just walking them into the feminine? Is that what you're doing?
No, it's a balance.
It's balance. Okay.
I'm not negating any of it. It's a balance.
No. I'm just saying, so there's 2 stages, right? First, they have to walk into the feminine and understand it. And then after that, they have to balance the two. Okay, there's 2 stages there, right? So what I'm asking you is, are you doing one stage or are you doing both stages?
Both.
Okay. All right. So, and I think that those need to be split out, just so you know.
Okay. That's good to
Because
know.
people need to have an experience of, they've been living in the masculine side of it. They need to live in the feminine side before they can balance. Because
Okay.
otherwise they're going to have this much of the feminine and this much of the masculine, and they won't be balanced. Right? So you need to get them firmly into this side, right? Before they can find the balance between the two. They need to really rock in fullness. I don't know if you know that phrase, but they need to.
I've never heard it, but I like it.
Yeah, so it's from Stranger in a Strange Land, but it's basically to really, understand at all levels, right? Is what that means. This side of the equation, right? So because they have done that deep dive on the other side. So in order
Okay.
to find balance, they're going to have to develop this side as fully as this side, right? Because otherwise they'll be unbalanced because they went this, only that much, right? So you really need to do both steps. I feel, as I feel into it, it really needs to be 2 stages, right? Which is good for you because that means you have a follow-up system to do. So it's like you do this and then you do this. So now it's not a one and done. This is the thing that is a challenge with your current model, is that you've got single sessions and it's a one and done unless you can talk them into coming back or they try and come back or whatever, but it's a one and done model. We don't want a one and done model for sustainability, for long-term success. We need something that has a follow-up. So like I've got programs / coaching programs combined, right? It's a hybrid system. People can work with me for 2.5 years as B2C students, and then they can shift into the B2B model and work with me for more years after that, right? So I want people in for the long haul because that's where I like to work really deeply with people, right? And you are that same person. You like to work really deeply with people. I can see that from the conversations and the questionnaires and everything. So you want a longer term model. You're not looking for a one and done. So that's the other piece to look at there. And because the dive into the feminine is a huge thing, that model is going to take some time to get them in there and get them as engrossed in it and as grokking in fullness in it as they are on the other side. And so that's a good thing for you because that means more sustainability for income, right? So what I feel from you as we're talking is that what we need to develop for you is a model that is going to provide you with recurring revenue. And so that you have the ability to project forward and say, yeah, I'll be able to make my nut, right, every month, right? And so that recurring revenue, probably either a membership site or a program coaching system sort of thing, or group coaching alone, not without a program. But that sort of thing is what you're looking at for a recurring revenue model. Okay. And then that way you can, I always love these people who sell high ticket programs and they're like, oh, pay in full and you save money. And I'm like, I don't want you to pay in full, right? I want you to pay monthly because then I have recurring revenue that I can rely on in my business, right?
I don't want you to pay up front.
To not have recurring revenue, right? And they're like, oh, pay. And it's like, if your program is good, you don't have to worry about people canceling before they get to the end, right? It's just like that. So I'm a big fan of recurring revenue. So it provides consciousness and all the other things. So the other thing that I'm going to recommend to you is that you pick up a book called Profit First.
Okay.
Okay, it's by Michael Michalowicz, and he and I want you to pick it up because you said you weren't doing taxes yet, and you weren't tracking your accounting. This guy, I had been in business for 25 years, and he changed my life. I used to struggle at the end of every year to get all my bookkeeping done at the end of the year so that I could then have to pay the taxes, which I never had the money for, all of that. And this book changed my life. And now I've always got the money for my taxes. It's like, oh, it's tax time. Here, write the check. It's done, right? And I've always got my bookkeeping done. I know exactly what my income is going to be. I know exactly what my expenses are going to be. I know everything. And
All
my
right.
taxes
I
are
just
right on
thought
time.
it.
Yeah. So I will tell you, if you set up the way that he recommends, it will be the best thing you ever did for yourself. Best gift you could give yourself, especially if you're looking at increasing your revenue. Now, that 10 grand that you talked about, does that include putting aside money for your taxes? Or is that the net you need?
That's the net that I need.
Okay. So you need to tack the taxes on top of that then.
Okay.
Okay. So do you know what tax bracket you're in? What percentage?
I have no idea.
Okay. He'll walk you through it. But you can look at your tax return from last year and you can figure out what the percentage was that you had to pay and things like that. Okay. But he'll walk you through how to do it. And then you need to tack the taxes on top of that for your goal. Because
Okay.
otherwise you're going to be, struggling to make the bills at the end of the tax quarter.
Which
Okay.
we do not want.
Which we do not want because it is expensive to owe the IRS money. And stuff. So,
Okay.
okay. Okay. So how are you feeling right now?
I feel good.
Okay. So I'm going to step out of consult mode and step into feedback for me mode, if that's okay with you, because I feel like I've asked you all the questions I need to ask before I sit down and sort of really think through what needs to happen, right? And I will come up with a plan for you, and then I'll come back. We'll have another conversation, and we'll do that. So, but for now, tell me how this process had been for you so far.
Yeah, I think the questionnaires were great. They allowed me to do a lot of self-reflection on things that maybe and that I probably haven't thought about really until the questions were in front of me. I think this back and forth conversation has been very insightful and a good mix of asking me questions but also challenging me to think about things a little bit deeper. So I have some takeaways to move from this conversation of well, you're developing a plan. I know some things that I need to do. So I need to look at outcomes and start putting outcomes on my website. I need to stop over posting about the accomplishments that I'm making on Instagram and make it more about my customers. And then I also need to make sure that I'm changing my headline to speak to my target audience.
Yeah. I would not make any changes to your website before we talk again.
Okay.
What I really want you to do between now and when we speak again is I want you to talk to your 80% clients who are the target market.
Okay.
That is the thing you need to do first, because any change you make right now is going to be an interim change, and it's going to feel like you're changing all over the place to the people who are following you. You don't want to do that. Don't change anything now. Keep doing what you've been doing, and we will make the change all at once when you're ready to do the new thing. Okay? That's going to be better than sort of changing and changing and changing and changing, because then people feel like there's nothing to stand on because it might change again tomorrow, right? So, do the interviews with your 80% clients. That's what you really should be focusing on between now and when we talk again. Okay. And think about what your outcomes are. So, but don't make any changes that anybody else can see, right?
Okay.
Nothing that anybody else can see, just what you're doing. Okay. And because I want it to be, let's present a fait accompli to your people as we go. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's already done and ready to go. All right. And I will think about what model I think is going to be best for you. You have a podcast right now, right?
I have a radio show that I co-host with a life and relationship coach. And then I get asked to appear as a guest on a lot of podcasts. So this year I've been on 37 podcasts as a guest.
Nice. Do you have a lead magnet that you're promoting every time you go on there?
I promote it on my socials, and I promote it on my newsletter when I've gone on a podcast.
On the podcast.
What?
When you interview on a podcast with somebody else, how are you gaining clients from that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So yeah, that's something else we need to talk about, because if you're not driving people to your radio show, or if you're not driving people to your website, or you're not driving people
Oh,
preferably
I
to a lead magnet, right? You want to
I
send them to a
definitely
lead magnet, right?
I definitely I always lead people back to my website at the very least. And then my website and like how to contact me is always in the show notes of the things that I'm on.
Yeah, but there's no motivation with that. Just telling people your website is like, why did they bother, right? Unless they really resonated with you, they're not going to do that. But if you give them a lead magnet, like for instance, I have a lead magnet called Boundaries for Empaths. And I'm like, there's an energetic reason you're an empath, and there's an energetic reason you have a hard time, separating out other people's energy from yours. And I can show you how to fix that with a free e-course. Go and get it here, right? That now they've got a motivation. They're like, oh, I need that. I don't know if I know this lady or like her yet. I mean, I've only heard her for whatever long the podcast was, but I want that class, right? You see how the difference is there?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So the first one, here's my website, gets you the 3% of people who are like super excited to get to know you. And the second one gets you the 67% of people who probably would buy from you if they knew you better. And so that's really what you want, is you're missing 67% of the ability to get people on your list, because you're not using a solid lead magnet that speaks directly to them. Okay. And so
Okay.
as we define that market more, we'll find out what that lead magnet should be, right? But for now, I want you to that it's just it's a pin in it for now, right? I just want you to think about the fact
I'm
that
putting a pin in it. Okay.
I want you to go, oh yeah, I should adjust the way I'm doing this, right? Because I've been on 37 podcasts, and the 37 podcasts, you should have hundreds of people extra on your mailing list, right? But your mailing list, if I remember, was pretty small, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's because you're not offering a lead magnet.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. I want to talk again in a week. I want you to do your interviews and, get that information and get it back to me. And then, you may not be able to interview a lot of people in a week because setting up times can be challenging, but, I want you to really sit down and talk to people. And if you've got them in person, just click your phone and record it, because I want their actual language, right?
Okay. Okay.
Super important. Talk about the journey from where they were to when they were ready to start working with you, right? And what gave them their aha that they needed something, what changed their mind that they weren't as far along as they thought they were, right? And why they're working with you now. Okay? Because the why they're working with you now is going to be relevant.
Okay.
Okay? Because how you say it and how they say it is going to be different.
Definitely.
Yeah. Right? And you want to speak in their words, not in yours.
Okay.
Okay? You will hear common phrases and words when you talk to enough people. And then, that's going to be the key, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I find that people who are talking about 5D and the latest one is false light. I got a question about that from one of my students the other day. She was like, false light. I'm like, I've never heard of that. What is that? And it's but it's a new buzzword for people who are, stage 3. So, you'll find that they'll have some common language. So it'll be interesting.
A false light is a new one for me. So I haven't heard that one yet either. So I'm like, okay, false light. I could take a guess at what that means, but I haven't heard that term yet. And it's always just like recycling the same thing, right? Like when you're talking about it's non-integration, it's non-embodiment, it's like trying to ascend, it's not being balanced, it's all of those things. It's just new terms. explain the
Yeah,
same thing.
the basic premise that I got from it when I Googled it was that there is big T truth and little T truth, and there is, you resonate with something that feels like it's of the light and it's got some truth to it, but then you attach your identity to it, and then you miss the fact that it's not the be all end all. It's just a stepping stone, right? I think that's the general concept
Ah,
of that light.
okay. So it's like being in the blend. Got it.
Okay, I don't know that phrase either. So,
Yeah. So
everybody's got their own phrases for it, but yeah.
yeah, being in the blend is when so I'll break it down and like, so if for me, if you're operating in flow, like 80% of the time you're operating in accordance with natural law. Like that's how I look at it.
Right.
And 20% of the time it's the other, right? Because like that is Buddhist perfection, right? 20% to 80% of the time we're doing it as much as we can, and 20%, we're in the worldly way. And so when we are in the blend, it's like we think we're 80%, but
Right.
really we're in that 20, and we're blending between our observations and our mind and what we know to be true. So like for example, a mediums do this a lot. Like mediums and psychics, they go into the blend a lot because they're not actually in the stream of consciousness. They think that they are, and they're actually like resonating from information that they picked up as they're talking to people, and they're blending the information as spiritual truth.
Yeah.
I
haven't thought about it from that perspective, but true. Yes.
Yeah, and it's not because they don't think, they don't realize that they're doing that, but because they're still operating in their brain, and they're operating in that place that's not actually in all of the streams of consciousness, because a lot of the times psychics and mediums, one, they're trying to ascend, and two, they don't realize that it's not just formless spirit that we can connect with. And they're cutting themselves off to one stream of consciousness, and really we're able to connect with so many streams of consciousness. We can connect with crystals, trees, the planets, the stars, the water, the earth. Like we can connect into so many streams of consciousness, and they're cutting themselves off to just one. And then because there's still usually like judgment or disbelief there, that they don't actually identify, so they can't free it because you have to see it to free it out of your field, they operate in that blend a lot. So they're taking in information that they're observing, and then they're thinking that they know the answer, and they also go into that people pleaser mode where like they want to give people the information. And so they're like, okay, if we just say this, right? Like we observe this, we observe that, we observe that, and they blend the information before it comes out of their own oral transmission.
Yeah. So all of these things.
Yeah.
Yes, all of these things. So yeah, you've definitely got a very specific point of view, and therefore a very specific offer. You just need to start languaging it in a way that your actual market wants, instead of doing the beginner stuff.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, do your interviews, think about your outcomes, and we'll talk again in a week. Let me pick a time here. Let's find a time that works.
Pulling up my calendar too.
Yep. All right. Can we do the same time next week? Would that work for you?
Same time next week. Yes, I can do that.
Okay. So let's do that then.
Okay.
What's your day job by the way?
I am the Business and Community Advancement Manager for the City of Worcester.
Business and Community Advancement? What does that mean?
So I do, an entrepreneur like has an idea, and they're like, okay, I have an idea. Oh, and I'm in the City of Worcester. What do I do? Where are all my resources? Where do I go? Where's all the dots? So I run the Worcester Business Resource Alliance as a part of my job. And so I have all the dots, and I connect them to all the places that they need to go when they are a new entrepreneur, either like just have an idea and they don't know what to do yet, or they started and they're like, oh, I realized that there's resources. Can you tell me which direction to go in? Also, when businesses are expanding and they're looking for grants, I do some of the grant making in the city for small businesses. I run Small Business 101 for the library and Mass Hire. I do, what else do I do? I do a lot of like community events for businesses. So I go to, like, if there's a conference that the chamber is doing, I go and I'm at the conference and I speak on panels for youth entrepreneurship, and I speak on panels at entrepreneurship forums and talk about, all the resources that exist in the city. If you just, here's all the doors, you just have to open them.
Okay.
And then I also, as a part of my job, I facilitate Leadership Worcester, which is a leadership program in the city that's run by the Worcester Chamber. And so it's 28 people that go into the program for 9 months. They meet once a month, and I facilitate that program.
Okay. And so I saw that you had listed that you did training for like businesses.
So that actually was on my website for a while. I need to take it out of my About Me because it's still on my About Me.
Okay.
But I'm part of trying to own my wholeness, because it is part of what I do in the world. But that's not the clients that I feel called to work with on a one-on-one basis. That's not the people that I'm working with. But in a group, yes. But I don't know how to package that. So
Right. So, okay. So the other thing I want you to do is I want you to go to Alex Hormozy's website.
Alex Hormozy.
Hormozy, HORMOZI.
Okay.
He has a series of videos that he has produced that are free, that are for he helps people $1 million and then exit their business. So what he's done is he's created an entire series of videos to try and get people to the 3 million mark. And so he's presented concepts and to do that. And they're really good videos. Okay. So I want you to go and watch those, specifically the one around positioning and who you're marketing to, because there are very specific things there around how you position. And so that's what I'm doing, that shift in my business right now.
Okay.
And that's, I think it's going to be really appropriate for you. So that's why I'm trying to say, this is how it impacts your ability to be a facilitator, is because the things that make the most money are things around relationships, health, and business, making money. Okay. So you want to position your offer around those 3 things, one of those 3 things.
Okay.
Can't do all 3. You got to pick one. So.
Okay.
Otherwise you're distracting. This is the thing. So this is always the challenge with spiritual people, is that, our stuff impacts so much stuff, but it's like, well, yeah, it works for everything. It's like, yes, but you got to pick one. because otherwise it gets hard to get known for it, right? Because you're all over the place. You want people to be able to say, oh, Margie's the person you go to for X, right? If you're like, oh, she does X, Y, Z, ABC, blah, blah, blah. It's like master of, jack of all trades, master of, right? But you want yourself to be referable, right? People need to be able to say, oh, this is what you go to Margie for, right? Okay. And I want you to think of a different way to say root teacher, because that doesn't mean anything. You need something that's more specific. So, and who's the person that you reference at the bottom of your website that says, all of these things were verbally transmitted by?
Lisa Shwari Murphy.
Yeah. Who is she?
She's the creator of Svaha Yoga and Synergy of Sound Academy, where I take most of my classes.
Okay. Where you take most of your classes, or where you run most of your classes?
No, where I take most of my classes. I still take classes. I will never not be a learner.
Okay. So you're enrolled with her, but you're teaching her stuff.
Yes.
Are you certified as a teacher with her?
She doesn't certify teachers. But she has teachers that teach out of her academy. All of those people have like over 1,000 hours of apprenticeship. I'm working my way towards that apprenticeship, so I do apprentice with a lot of her teachers, so that I can eventually teach out of the academy as well.
Okay. And what does teaching out of the academy get you?
Access to more students that are already on the path of what I'm already doing. So they have like a yoga arm, they have an oral transmission arm, they have an energy medicine arm, they have a Reiki arm. They're developing an arm that is, around families focused on children. It's called the Bridge to Avalon program. They have an eating program. They have a coaching program.
What's the name of this organization?
Spaha Yoga and Synergy of Sound Academy.
I've never heard of them, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a yoga person, so that's not surprising. So.
Yeah. I mean, I do yoga. I wouldn't call myself a yogi or anything. I'm not trained in yoga myself, but I'm trained in a lot of the other modalities. And a lot of the wisdom practices. The difference of what Lisa does with her school and how it's different than others is it's all of what she does is woven back into that natural law. So like yoga, the principles of natural law are woven into yoga. When we're doing Reiki, the principles of natural law are woven into the Reiki classes. When we're doing energy medicine and sound and oral transmission and the ancient art of channeling, natural law is like the standpoint. It's the building blocks of all of the other things that are there.
Okay. It's interesting that I'm just looking at how things are lining up. Okay. So then your focus is on becoming a teacher in this academy. That's important for me to understand. So
yeah, I will still be operating my own business, but I also will be teaching for them as well. So how she runs her teachers is like they teach as a part of the academy, but everyone has their own entities as well.
Right.
So she doesn't. No one's like an employee of. I mean, they are the employee of Svaha Yoga and Synergy of Sound Academy, but like really they're ambassadors of that way of life.
Okay. So then whatever we come up with needs to be able to be aligned to that.
Yes. Yes, for sure. I mean, and I mean, Lisa's very, very open. She knows my whole journey. She's one of my mentors, so she's someone that I see frequently.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm more like, so the energy of the academy feels different, not drastically, but different than the energy of what you and I have been talking about. So, I mean, they're related, but they're different, right? Because your path, honestly, your path feels more shamanic to me than the yogic path that they're doing. So,
There's shamanic work there too. There's a whole shamanic arm of the academy as well.
Okay, yeah, because yours feels more shamanic to me, but yeah, so they're all over the place then. They're massive.
They're pretty big. Yeah, they're pretty big.
Yeah. Okay. Can you send me a link to that in the Facebook chat so that I have it and I can see it and sort of get a feel for the energy of it?
Yeah.
That'll be helpful for me for working on stuff for you. I'll
do it right now.
Great. Yeah. So I sent you an invite to the next session for Monday. I've scheduled it for an hour. It might be a little more than that. We'll see. I'm not sure. But being that you are the first person that I'm doing this with, I'm
You're feeling it out. You're seeing how long you need.
Out, exactly. So so can you give me feedback on what the experience has been like for you?
Yeah, I think that this has been a great experience. Again, very insightful. I love the questions. I think that you're doing a healthy blend of pulling more information out as well as giving me some action steps to do. So I think this has been great.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go back and do my thing. You're going to go back and do your thing. You're not going to touch any of your marketing or your website or anything until
Not
we
touching
get
it.
a new model in place for you, new idea. And then we will figure out. So my plan when I come back to you is going to be to have a vision for where you should take your business in order to get to the next stage that you're looking for. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to work on, shooting for 15 grand a month just to be safe on taxes, right? And so I will work on a model that will build into that 15 grand a month vision. Tell me how you are around money. Are you able to wrap your head around charging big bucks?
Working on that.
Okay.
Working on that. I've been doing I don't have it right next to my bed. I have a book. It's like a money mindset book. Tori Dunlap wrote it. Anyway, I've been working on her money mindset so that I can work past that, like not thinking that I can charge more for my services than I do.
Okay. What is your biggest block on charging more for your services?
I think, you hit it when you ask like who are the people you're around. thinking people won't be able to afford it, and so trying to cater to that.
Okay. So I will tell you, I have been successfully charging $3,000 for my opening program, which is 4 months long since 2018. Okay.
Okay.
And my second program that's a year long is 10 grand. Okay. And I've got people in the program. No problem. Okay. So people are out there who will pay this money. And I will tell you that from a personal experience. Okay. From years and years of personal experience on that. What you have to do is establish the value for them to invest in it. Right.
Okay.
So that's the key. The key isn't how much money are you charging, but how much value are you providing. Right. And so, people don't pay for a program, they pay for an outcome. And that's why it's important to know who you're marketing to and what the outcome is that you provide, because otherwise there's nothing for people to buy except, oh, I'm resonating with you. I feel like I need to talk to you. I need to work with you. Well, they'll pay $150 for that, but they're not going to pay $500 for that. I had somebody do a healing session with me last week for $500 for an hour. Okay. It's doable. And he's going to enroll in my program too. Okay. So what's your emotion that you hear that you feel when you hear that?
A little bit of overwhelm.
Yeah. What's the judgment that comes up when you hear that?
I couldn't afford that.
Okay, but there's a judgment associated with it too, though. When we have an I can't afford that, there's usually a judgment that follows it. You shouldn't be charging that much. There's a price gouging thing that might come up. There's a, you're not making your services available to people who need it. There's
it's that one. It's that one.
Yeah. So then the thing that you have to recognize is that when you charge the higher amount, you call people up to a higher level. Okay. The amount somebody pays is their literal investment energetically into the work. I will tell you that when I started running my programs, I ran them for less expensive and people got less value. What I did was I raised the price of my programs to the point where people got the maximum value. And then I raised a little more to see if they would get more value, and they didn't. So I brought the price back down. Because what I've done was I've raised the price to the point where they have to invest enough monetarily that they will invest enough energetically to get the maximum value out of the program.
Okay.
So what I've done is optimize the price to value ratio, right? Because if you charge too little, they will inherently not receive everything that you have to give them because they will feel the karmic debt.
Okay.
Okay. And people will either not receive it or they will try to find another way to pay you back. Okay. So that's part of the work, is to be able to wrap your head around that and to be able to properly price based on the value.
Okay.
It's not just a matter of how do I raise my prices to an unreasonable level, right? It is how do I match the value of what I'm giving to what I'm receiving.
Okay.
So, for instance, the guy that I did the work with last week who paid me $500 for the hour, I got him to forgive himself for having been miserable to his children in a 1-hour session. Okay. In 1 hour, we got there, and I answered a bunch of other questions for him. Okay. That alone it frees him up dramatically, right? Because he's Hispanic, and so culturally, not being able to really open-heartedly connect to your family because you feel so guilty is a problem, right?
Right.
And so that was a massive shift for him. Okay. $500 was probably too low for what the value was that he got.
Okay.
Okay.
I see what you're saying. I understand. Yeah.
So you've got to wrap your head around that, right?
Okay.
Okay. So these are the reasons why we make shifts in our income, is because it's to balance out the scales. And you are delivering at mass level. I can feel it in your energy field, which means you are way undercharging.
Okay.
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 Yeah. And, quite frankly, I mean, Kathy, my friend Kathy, is also a shaman. She went to an event, oh, God, it's about a decade ago now. And she went to a David Nagel event, and he's a very high-end coach. Like, I think she paid like $10,000 10 years ago to be in this program with him. And he asked her, he said, how much do you charge and what do you do? And she's like, oh, well, I give people breakthroughs. If they're stuck and they can't get through to the other side, I can break them through in under an hour. And he said, oh, that's amazing. How much do you charge for that? She said, $150. And he said, I don't believe you. And she's like, what? He said, I don't believe that you can do what you say you can do because you're only charging $150. He's like, if you told me it was $750 or $1,000, I'd believe that. But I don't believe that you can do what you're doing if you're charging because you're charging so little.
Okay. That's a good perspective.
Okay. So food for thought. So I want you to start wrapping your head around. What I want you to wrap your head around is making $50,000 a month. 50.
Okay.
Okay. I want you to start wrapping your head around that, because then when I give you a plan for 15, you'll be like, oh, that's only 15, right? That's what I want you to do. I want your brain to be like, only 15? I've got my head wrapped around 50, right?
Okay.
So start wrapping your head around 50. I had somebody do this to me recently. I have a JV partner who I'm still supposed to be working with shortly, but she's had some health issues. So, but she did it to me, and it was 500,000 a month. Okay.
I would change the world with $500,000 a month.
Yeah, but that one was like, and I've been hanging out with people who make buku bucks. So, but that one just broke my brain for a minute, and I had to wrap my head around it. I've been working on that for a while now. So, but it's definitely worth the effort to wrap your head around. This is happening. 50 grand a month. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Because, I'm already up at the higher levels, so I can do the 500. 500 is going to feel unreasonable to you. Okay. You need to have something that you can wrap your head around that's like a real big stretch and like, but it's okay. You can wrap your head around it.
Okay.
So
I'll work on wrapping my head around $50,000 a month, because that would also feel like I could change the world with that. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
remember that 50,000 a month is going to net out to less. So I want you to do the math on exactly how much money you're going to end up with once you've paid your taxes, right? So it's going to net out to probably 35 or 30 once you paid taxes, right?
Okay.
So, and I want you to think about what kind of financial planning you would have to do for that, right? And what kind of financial instruments you would use, because your banks don't insure more than $250,000 in any given bank account in any given bank. So, would I spread my income in other places? Would I put it into a brokerage account? How would I invest it? What would I do with it, right? How am I going to put money aside for financial security for my family and all of that, right?
Okay.
And you're going to come to see that 50,000 is not that much. You're going to be like, okay. And that's good to be like, oh, 50,000 isn't that much money, right? Because then when we start working your way up, then you'll be better off, right?
Okay.
So got to wrap your head around it. You got to
All
stop
right.
thinking about the small dollar amounts.
I gotta start thinking bigger.
Yeah.
That's a theme in my whole life.
Yeah. Stretch that mindset, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So think about that. And we'll talk next week. I will come back with a plan for what I think is going to be the optimal path for you based on the fact that we're looking at getting them fully into the feminine and then into the balance. And we'll work on that. I'll think about how that might be best structured.
Okay.
Is there specific energy work you want to do with people, or are you okay with a coaching model or
No,
a teaching model? Or
I'm trained in coaching modalities. And really I bring all parts of what I do, no matter what, but whether we're calling it coaching or we're calling it an energy healing session, like I'm still using channeling, I'm still using sound, I'm still using oral transmission, I'm still using rhythm. Like all of those things are still happening. It just looks a little bit different.
yeah, okay. All right, so then I will chew on this, and what I'm going to come back with is a vision for the year with the new business model, and I'll give you a 90-day plan for how to start implementing it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And we'll go from there. But give me when you have some aggregate language. Do I need that? No. What I need is the precursor model, the precursor of what they're doing, what they're doing before they get to you, your clients. Okay. That's what I need as soon as possible so that I can figure out your 90-day plan. Because the year-long one, that's easy. I can just create the image for it and say, okay, here's sort of the general arc, right? But the 90-day is much more specific. So just so you know, my plan with this is to create a system that if somebody continues after this process with me, that I will then take that 90 days and put it into into ClickUp, which is a to-do thing, right? I'll set up the whole thing in a 90-day structure in ClickUp and have it all ready to go, and so that the person can come in and just do what they're told every day, and that they get where they're going to go with it. So that's the model that I'm rolling into. So my plan for this work in my business is that I'll have this initial consult, which will be the $1,000 that I'm going to charge for that, to give people this overview plan, and then they'll get a 90-day plan that's just written out, and then give them the option to come in and work with me on a regular basis. And then that'll include putting it all into ClickUp and then having a coach work with them to keep them on track on that and that sort of thing. Then I have in my back end, in my courses, I have so many modules on business and spiritual stuff and, a lot of personal growth and the whole 9 yards. And so included with that will then be anything that the coach feels like they need, they will just give to them. So you're not paying extra for programs, you're just paying for a set fee for that. Does that appeal to you? Is that something that would appeal to you? I mean, I know you're in this other system, but just in general, this is again me asking for my benefit.
Like if working in that way appeals to me?
Yeah. where you're not being brought into a hardcore coaching program. You're being brought into we're going to partner with you to help you get your business going. And anytime we run into something that you don't know, we're going to hand you just that piece of content that you need to learn. So you don't have to be digging through a whole bunch of shit that doesn't matter to you. And it's only stuff that's relevant to you in the moment that you need it. Right. So we're not going to hand you this huge back end system with all this stuff in it that you then have to figure out what you need. It's going to be, nope, the coach is going to look at you and say, okay, you're going into this. I want you to do this program piece here and learn that. And it'll be, 15 minutes to an hour maybe, and then use that to do this. Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good model.
Okay. So that's something that I'm, like I said, this is a new model for us. So we're looking at it. We've broken everything down into bite-sized pieces where people can just be handed what they need.
I think that's where sometimes people get overwhelmed with all the information. They don't know where to start. So doing it this way helps to alleviate that.
Yeah. And the idea being that you actually sign something in the beginning that says that you promise not to take on any new marketing initiative or learn a new model or buy a program without talking to your coach first.
Okay.
And I think the problem that a lot of people run into is that they get bright and shiny syndrome. And it's too hard to keep, or too boring to keep doing the work to do the stuff that you're already doing. And so it's easy to be like, oh, I want to do this over here or that over there, or do this joint venture or that joint venture or whatever. And then they don't stay focused on what they're doing.
Yeah, it takes a lot to be disciplined, as I've learned on my own journey.
Yeah.
So often I think people are going to join me on their path, right? And then they don't, because it takes actually a lot of discipline to do that. So.
Yeah. And so that's the other piece that I'm doing with this, is that you're signing an agreement saying, I will not do X, Y, Z, ABC without talking to my coach first. And every 90 days, they're going to have to reaffirm that, because it's so easy to get the bright and shiny distraction thing going on. It's exhausting.
So you employ other coaches as part of what you do?
Yes, I have coaches who work with me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I do the 90-day plan, and if the coach gets stuck or needs some help, or you're feeling like you don't have everything you need, or something's not vibing with the coach, then I'll jump in. But yeah, they're there to keep you on track and keep you accountable.
So if you would like a spiritual business consultation, just go to kellesparta.com and click on the services button and choose the spiritual business consultation. I will also include the link in the show notes here. Thanks for listening. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. And remember that what you focus on is what expands. What you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.
Spiritual business consultation with Kelle was eye-opening and really helped me move through some of my own limiting beliefs around the money that I am able to access and the currency flow that I'm actually able to tap into. And it made me look at the value at which I'm bringing to the table, and really allowing me to own the value of what I'm actually delivering, because I'm delivering a lot higher value than what I'm allowing myself to receive. So it's really opening me up to that sacred reciprocity where I am allowing myself to receive just as freely as I'm giving. So I think that I know that the whole process of getting the consultation was very informative, but extremely worth the money. She's pulling on the strengths that you already have, and she's making it so easy for you to understand what she is delivering to you and the options that she's giving you, because she's giving you so much options and so much content. The best part about when she's diving into the lead magnet is that she gives you a whole section under each option that she's giving you of why it works. So it's really making it easy to understand and connect the dots of something that you can create with what you already have in your wheelhouse, and then why it's going to work for you and why it's going to work for your customers and why it's really going to drive people to want to do business with you. And again, she gives so much content and so much inspiration in a really easy and broken down way that it's really a no-brainer to see that she's giving you so much of herself and so much to really upload your business and ignite it in a way that's gonna really fast track you in a way that you haven't been fast tracked before. The lead magnet options, I loved them. It was really hard to choose which one, but ultimately I decided that the one that I think would resonate the most with me is the audio series and doing the guided meditations. I really liked that one, and I think that's a good way to showcase my work, because not only people are getting the meditation when they work with me, they're also getting like the healing that happens. And I like how it builds like the, awakening the divine feminine and then balancing the masculine and the feminine within. Absolutely love the ideas. I think they're fantastic. I feel like it's very well broken down, and you're taking into consideration what we've talked about, what you've gotten from the questionnaires that I've done, what you've seen on my website, and you've made it like, you know that I can do this, right? You're not like, oh, like she could try this. You're like, no, I know what's in her wheelhouse. I know what she's offering already. I know what certifications she has. And I know this would be a plan that will work for her. So you're not trying to get people to even like do something different than what they're already doing. Very, very easy to read, super digestible, very well broken down. You left enough space between everything. That's like 6 pages of like how working with you is going to help them. And I would encourage anybody who is feeling stuck in their business model or stuck in their business right now, especially the spiritual business, to reach out to Kelle and do a consultation with her.
So that's it for today's episode of Spirit Guides Podcast. Head on over to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. Every week, one lucky listener who subscribes and posts a review on iTunes will be entered into a drawing for a $10,000 value grand prize and a private reading with Kelle Sparta herself. Be sure to head on over to spiritguidespodcast.com and pick up a free copy of Kelle's gift and join us on the next episode.